Bitcoin is on a very high growth trajectory, right? And it's not just a linear growth. It's going to grow a lot, compounded really high, right? So, this is something that's going to go up 10x, 20x from where we are now. And so because it's going to go up 10x, 20x, you're going to get a massive amount of volatility because it's growing at this super linear way, not just even x squared. It's growing at x to the power 6. So, if you see something that's growing at x to the power 6, you absolutely should own that thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's
you just have to get it in your head. This thing's growing at x to the power 6. Okay, I'm going to own that thing.
With the Bitcoin halving event less than a week away, crypto, and specifically Bitcoin, is anticipated to see a surge of 10 to 20 times from its current value. This bold prediction comes from seasoned investor Fred Krueger. For those unfamiliar with Fred Krueger, he's a veteran investor with decades of experience on Wall Street, holds a PhD in mathematics from Standford, and has successfully exited from over 10 companies he's founded. Fred's track record speaks for itself, showcasing his ability to spot significant opportunities. Fred is all in on Bitcoin, believing it will maintain its linear growth trajectory and experience exponential growth, potentially at a rate of x to the power of 6. He views Bitcoin as the most promising and rapidly growing asset he's encountered in his career. Fred emphasizes that allocating towards Bitcoin is a wise move, and in the video's conclusion, he elaborates on how even a small Bitcoin investment can have a transformative impact on one's financial future.
Ever feel like you're wasting your money on things that don't really matter? Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out on this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself now. Don't spend $12.50 on junk. Educate yourself on how to be successful in crypto using our crypto cheat guide. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Visit the website now on the link in the description for your exclusive copy. Start your journey to crypto success today.
Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to drop your comment and observations in the comment section below. Thanks and enjoy the video.
Bitcoin, at the end of the day, it is growing almost exponentially. It's growing like a weed, okay?
Yeah.
And basically, 25% a year, there's more Bitcoin users every year. And it doesn't matter whether Bitcoin's price is going up or down, the usage is increasing, right? And there's all these ways of measuring that. You can measure people who have 1 Bitcoin, or people who have 1/10 of a Bitcoin, or addresses that have 1/100th of a Bitcoin, or even addresses that have 10 Bitcoin. And you see these things are growing at sort of a geometric rate, right? It really is, there is no uncertainty about it. It's just, this thing's growing. It's sort of like population growth in a country like, India, right? Population growth in Netherlands is not growing, but population in India is growing, or Mexico, it's growing every year. It's growing at, 7% a year. We're dealing with sort of an inevitability of the growth and adoption of Bitcoin. That's really the basis. Now, this is also growing in terms of price. It's also growing in a very consistent way, but it's a little harder to really appreciate and understand that because it's happening in this logarithmic kind of way. If we're right, if we Bitcoiners are right, and I think we are, right? But if this is going to become the future world money, I thought about it. Now my thesis is that I think there's a couple things that Bitcoin does much better than regular money, right? And the first thing I think it does is it allows your money to be held in custody by yourself and moved wherever you want, right? And, if you have euros and you move to America, your euros are basically useless. We do not accept the euro over here, right?
Yeah.
The dollar, my dollars in Netherlands are pretty useless, But Bitcoin is this unit where I can hold my Bitcoin in a wallet, and I can take that wallet anywhere I want in the world, right? And that's a fundamentally new thing, and I think that's actually the killer app of Bitcoin, right? Is that it's sort of it's money that you can hold and you can move around the world, right? That's the first thing. I think it's just, and nothing has this because fiat really has to be stored in a bank account, right?
Yeah.
And then there's some third party that's kind of gating it. Bitcoin can be stored just in a wallet, right? And so that's the first thing. The second thing is, I can send Bitcoin anywhere to anybody, anywhere in the world without an intermediary either, right? So I don't need a checkbook to send it. I don't need a wire to send it. I can send it to anybody in the world. And again, that's a really new thing, right? Now, other cryptocurrencies have that capability as they have the capability of the wallet, right? But I would think those two things are the things that are the biggest capabilities of crypto in general, right? And then the third thing is, this sort of finite supply, right? So, it cannot be debased. And I think between those things, I think you have something that is extremely powerful. And it's extremely powerful for people to keep their money out of the reach of the government.
Yeah.
And that I think is the biggest, that's the core driver of Bitcoin's growth. Number one driver is I want to take my money and I want to move it outside of the banking system. I want to move it outside of the government system. If you ask most people who are not in Bitcoin, or even people who are in Bitcoin, you say, explain the price of Bitcoin. They'd be like, well, there was back in the day, a long, long time ago, Bitcoin was really cheap, right? Like you were saying, right? 2013, it was like a couple $100, right? You could buy Bitcoin for $200, right? And then, so there was this prehistory where it was very cheap. And then in 2017, it kind of went from $1,000 to $20,000, right? Almost 20,000. Then it crashed. Then it was like dead. And then it went in late 2020, it rose again from the dead and it went to $60,000. And then it stayed there for about a year. It went down and went back up. It hit 60,000, 69,000 in the second peak. Then it crashed. And then it did nothing for 3 years. It died. And then last year it went back up. Well, that doesn't sound like a straight line at all, right? That sort of sounds like a very risky kind of investment that probably too risky for most people, right? Like, especially somebody my age, right? They'd be like, yeah, I don't need that. That sounds like way too much volatile, just complete risky casino. But if you look at it on logarithmic space and you say, great, let's look at the logarithm of Bitcoin price, right? Which the logarithm is a good way that you can put a graph of Bitcoin price over a very wide time scale, right? So from when Bitcoin was at 10 cents, right? So the logarithm is -1 at 10 cents, right? To right now where Bitcoin, let's say it's roughly $100,000, not quite 100,000 yet, but 100,000 would be 10 to the power 6. The logarithm of it in base 10 is 6. So you went from -1 to +6, right?
Yeah.
So you look at that, and now the trick is look at time also on a logarithmic basis. So look at time starting at the Genesis block and 15 years from there. So 10 years, that's 1, right? Because 10 to the power 1, 10 to the power 1 is 10, right? And so, you start at 0, you go to a little bit beyond 1. Now you're at, 1.4, right? 1.3, And so if you look at time that way and logarithm price, now you see, whoa, it's a complete straight line.
Yeah.
It's very clear. Once you see it, you're like, I can't unsee that. It's completely a straight line. And now it wobbles around the straight line, but it's very clear that it's growing linearly. Not possible that it's random, right?
Yeah.
And I think, there's not that many people have seen that graph, including not that many Bitcoiners, right? And so once you see that graph, you're like, oh, that's odd. Why is this thing that went up from 10 cents to 100,000? So it went up 7 orders of magnitude, right?
Yeah.
How could something that grow up in such a consistent way? And the answer is it's a power law. It's part of these power laws that exist in nature all over the place, right? Here's the thing. If you're looking at an asset that is sort of growing at some linear rate, right? And it's oscillating around this linear rate, I would say, yeah, it's way too volatile, right? Like, why would I want an asset if I said, okay, you can either invest in something that's going to go up 10% a year, almost guaranteed, right? Or you can get an asset that's going to grow 40% a year, plus or minus 40%. Now you're like, well, I'll take the 10%. Now, I'll take the 10% for sure, right? Like my house on the canals in Netherlands, right? That thing's probably going to grow up 10% a year, maybe 7%, right? That sounds a lot safer than something that's might go down 40%, right? But that's not the correct way of looking at it. It's not like it's a linear thing that's going to be, it's actually an exponential thing, right? So because it's exponential, not linear, right? It's not just volatility around a linear path. It's volatility around an exponential path. So if somebody said, well, you have this exponential asset, which has some volatility around an exponential path. Do you want that? You should be like, of course I want that. It's great. Like, this thing's going to be the next Microsoft, right? I'm buying Microsoft in 1986. Great. Like, I don't care what the volatility is if I buy Microsoft at around 86. You know, Microsoft went up, 3,000 times from 1986 till now. Yeah. So Bitcoin is on a very high growth trajectory, right? And it's not just a linear growth. It's going to grow a lot, compounded really high, right? This is something that's going to go up 10x, 20x from where we are now. And so because it's going to go up 10x, 20x, you're going to get a massive amount of volatility because it's growing at this super linear way, not just even x squared. It's growing at x to the power 6. So, if you see something that's growing at x to the power 6, you absolutely should own that thing.
Fred Krueger shares his bullish perspective on Bitcoin, emphasizing its steep and compounded high-growth trajectory. He predicts that Bitcoin's value could potentially surge by a factor of 10 to 20 from its current level, highlighting this as an opportune moment for investment before further price escalation. Krueger attributes Bitcoin's volatility to its rapid and superlinear growth, noting an exponential rate of expansion, potentially x to the power of 6. He firmly believes in the inevitable global adoption of Bitcoin, anticipating its positive impact on financial systems worldwide. In conclusion, Krueger's insights underscore Bitcoin's potential for significant growth and its transformative role in global finance, making it a compelling asset for investment. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.